House and Dennis Colatzos will be here on Thursday, driving you home as part of the SSV on WNST, heard from 3 until 5 on Thursday. He joins us now for a preview of the fake football. First off, Dennis, great to see you under obviously not the best conditions on Friday, but I've had a lot of people reach to me and say they've never, ever drank beer at someone's funeral before, so I do appreciate you coming out and lifting one on behalf of my mom.
Yeah, that was a first for me as well, Nestor, and being there with your mom and seeing the beer in her coffin and the hot dog, and all you could do was have a one more beer with her, and as the angels lifted her up to heaven. So bless her heart, and it was an honor to be there.
And everyone did have one beer on the way out there as well. Look, the Ravens will make you drink right now, right? Like, I don't know where we are right now. I don't even know how to assess this, because remember back, you get the report card back in Baltimore County when we were kids, and it would say incomplete. You know what I mean? Like, for me, the preseason and the injuries and the problems, and I know other teams have them too. Hey, as bad as the Ravens are, or we perceive them to be, or the injuries are, the defense is going well. And I'll tell you what, they kind of kicked the snot out of Miami and Washington's first, second, and third teams all the way across. So it might not be so bad here, but it certainly doesn't feel like anything we can fully judge without Joe Flacco out there.
Yeah, that's a great point, Nestor. The offensive line is still the biggest question mark, continues to be a big concern. The team, of course, signed Jeremy Zuta back again. And, that signing reeks of desperation. Although he did play more snaps than any other Raven last season, offensive lineman, he played through injuries, and maybe the new blocking scheme will be more suited to his abilities. We'll see how and if that will translate. But the offensive line right now is a C. That's my biggest concern about Joe Flacco being under center. And, again, they have to be able to run the ball. If they can't run the ball, this team is going to be in deep trouble.
All right, well, in assessing all of that, is this a team that can win 9 or 10 games with a managed offense and an outstanding defense? And I don't know, we talk about outstanding defense. We talk about the 0-1 Ravens, or maybe even the 0-3, 0-4 version of the Ravens. That wasn't outstanding defense. That was Ed Reed just going up in the air and getting the ball. And one thing we have not seen a lot of since Ed Reed is gone, and dare I say, I don't want to see anybody pitching the ball after they pick it, but we haven't seen any sort of returns for touchdowns, pick sixes, pick and go and get a field goal. We haven't seen a whole lot of, turnovers here from this defense since the glory era. Maybe this is the year that changes. And, hey, I'm all for the stifling run stop on first down, pass stop on second down, get off the field on third down, and make them punt. But there is something about turnovers that really moves you from being, they're a really good defense, to they're a defense that gets my offense points.
Yeah, this team does have a chance to be special on the defensive side of the ball. With Brandon Williams and Michael Pierce clogging up the middle, there's no way I can envision anyone running up the gut against these Ravens. They have too much team speed to run outside, so I think the running game they'll be able to take away, make the other teams one-dimensional. They've got extra defensive back help with Brandon Carr. Jalen Hill seems to be a fine diamond in the rough at cornerback. And what I'm banking on, Nestor, is this team being able to put lots and lots of pressure on the quarterbacks. The defensive line with Brent Urban and Terrell Suggs and Bronson Kafusi and some of these rookies, Tim Williams, et cetera, coming off the edge. Those are the type of things that can create turnovers by pressuring the quarterback. I'm not telling you this will be a defensive line equal to or better than the Giants teams that won 2 Super Bowls, but they do have a chance to be special on that side of the ball and perhaps create those turnovers that you're alluding to, because as the team can get pressure on that quarterback, it makes the defensive back stickier. That ball starts going up in the air, and once it starts going up in the air and getting battered around, anything can happen. Tony Jefferson seems to have a nose for the ball. We know Jimmy Smith can be very, very good. Lardarius Webb at slot corner could also make a difference. This could be an exceptional team on defense, but they got to get some help on offense. The offense, I believe, in the last 3 or 4 years, Nestor has been in the top 5 in 3 and outs. Joe Flacco can't get out there and keep going 3 and out. They've got to get some first down. They've got to manage first down, get positive yards, and they can't put themselves in second or third and long situations, because if that If that's going to be the case, I can't see 9 or 10 wins. A lot of things have to break right for this team to win 9 or 10 ball games and perhaps have a chance to back in the playoffs, much like they did a year ago.
Dennis, for the defense, and I think about Webb, and I think about Weddle, and I think about Jimmy Smith, and I think about Jefferson. They're not going to be lined up wrong, right? And they have these young guys that they can teach a little bit on the backside of the secondary. For that, I'm very grateful. I don't think the ball's going to go over their head much, and I think they're going to have some institutional knowledge. C.J. Mosley, Brandon Whitney, at every position and in every position group, they have incredible veteran leaders on the defensive side of the ball. And obviously they can't afford injuries, and they can't afford Eric Weddle to get too old or Terrell Suggs to get too old, even though they have some older and Ladarius Webb as well to get too old. But, I do feel like defensively in the system with Pease, having been there, all these guys sort of came up. I mean, Williams and Mosley don't know any better. This is all they know. This is a good circumstance that as much as we hand-wring about the offense, we do have a quarterback who's a Super Bowl winning quarterback, and we do have some Marshall Yandas and some Mike Watt, some Izzes, some guys that we know can play in this league. But defensively, that's old school around here. I remember when we would all rise in 513 and yell, "You can't run," every time they would try to hand off, and 1st and 10 would turn into 2nd and 12.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Nestor. If this is still, for all the Star Wars statistics and all the passing and the fancy formations, this is still a running league. That's the biggest secret out there. Teams that can't run the ball oftentimes find themselves in trouble. You look at the Patriots, you look at the Falcons, last year's 2 Super Bowl teams. Both teams had solid running games. LeGarrette Blount had 18 touchdowns for the Patriots. The Falcons had a 2-headed monster at running back. That's what makes the passing game go. Is if you can get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 yards on 1st and 2nd down, it makes the play action pass deadly. The safeties have to back off the line of scrimmage. The defensive backs have to give the wide receivers some room. That's what makes it go. And I'm hoping with Greg Roman, he can help that running game go. Looks like the linemen are more active. They're getting to the 2nd level. A lot of pulling guards, a lot of misdirection. Now, the question is, can the running backs get any kind of push? Terrence West has not looked good thus far in preseason. He's been running the pack of his linemen. In fact, Buck Allen has looked much better. So it wouldn't shock me if the Ravens still brought in one more veteran running backs, perhaps Ryan Matthews, who's out there right now, the former Eagle.
For you with Joe Flacco, and by the way, we're on with Dennis Kolotzis over at Coons Florida Security Boulevard. Of course, they sponsor our WNST text service, and it's usually bad news, it's usually breaking news, but Dennis, I have a feeling that Luke has a WNST text up his sleeve the first time Joe Flacco is out on the field, that Joe Flacco will return to practice will be its own headline and its own news item. What do you really expect from Joe Flacco as we sit here right now? And I know, look, we're doing tabloid radio right now because we're literally just guessing. I mean, at any point it's a guess. But I do think that for guys like you and I have watched this a long time, there is sort of a level of expectation, And I don't know that John Harbaugh really expects Joe Flacco to play 16 games this year. I don't know what my expectation is, but I'd like to see him come back healthy in October instead of banged up in September. I get the vibe that when I'm getting on the plane to fly out to Cincinnati in 3 weeks, that Ryan Mallett will be the quarterback at opening day. That's just what I think, and I wouldn't have thought that 2 weeks ago, but every day that this goes on and every day that he's not even out there in a red jersey just throwing the football, that he hasn't walked onto the field, really speaks volumes to me that if you gave me $1, I'm going to bet it on Mallett starting in Cincinnati, and if it is Flacco, I'll be shocked, and I would also be very, very shocked if there's any level of success.
Well, there are reports he's supposed to be returning to practice along with Rashard Perriman today. We'll have to see how that goes. My biggest concern with Joe Flacco is that he's developed bad habits the last 2 or 3 years. He's been throwing off of his back foot time and time again. And when you do that, the ball has a tendency to sail. When that ball sails, it results in bad things such as turnovers. So I'd like to see Joe get some confidence in his left knee, in his back, and his offensive line, be able to set his feet and throw the ball like he's capable of doing. He's a bit hard-headed, doesn't take direction real well. I know that Kubiak got his attention and respected. Gary an awful lot, but mechanically speaking, that's what I'll look for Joe Flacco when I see him on the field. Are his mechanics there? When he throws off his back foot, and granted, sometimes he's running for his life and he has to throw up his back foot, but for him not to climb the pocket and get in there and step up into his throws, that's what I'm looking at. Does he have the confidence level to be successful going forward in leading this team?
Well, what is your expectation? You think he's going to play how many games this year? If you're guessing based on his age, based on his back, based on the preseason, I mean, do you really expect him to make it to post 12 or 13 times this year, or do you really expect it 16 times? I mean, I've lowered my expectation from 16 to something less than 16 at this point.
Yeah, he plays through pain. Granted, he's a tough guy. But when you have a chronic back injury, chronic back pain, it certainly does affect your play. I can certainly see him easily missing 3 to 4 games, Nestor. And look, Ryan Mallett will go as the running game goes. I think they'll limit his throws. I think they'll try to run the ball, take the air out of it, and play some field position. But to me, the biggest key is, can this offense produce in excess of 100 yards rushing per game? Can they move up in the middle to upper echelon in the league in terms of rushing yards? They certainly have enough tight ends that they can run 2 tight end offenses, get creative, and they're going to have to do a great job scheming. Marty Morningwig, Greg Roman, John Harbaugh, they have to get after with unbalanced lines, multiple sets, double tight ends, 3 tight ends. They got this kid, Patrick Ricard. He's going to play some fullback, big, mean, strong guy, also plays on the defensive side of the ball. But they'll have to become very multiple in offense, keep the defense on its heels, and try to run the ball so that way, whether it's Flacco or Mallett. I know everybody's giddy about the third-string quarterback, but you know what? I don't get giddy about third-string quarterbacks in the fourth quarter. I get giddy about first-string quarterbacks in the first quarter. So, to me, this team will go as the running game goes. If they can't run the ball, it doesn't matter. Tom Brady could be the quarterback. He would still have a hard time winning ball games.
He is Dennis Kalatzis. He is out at Coons Florida Security Boulevard. He will be here on Thursday from 3 until 5, hosting the SSV on WNST. That's a Sunday Sports Voice. But don't let it fool you. It's now heard on Thursdays from 3 until 5. Dennis, what's going on over there at Security Boulevard, man? I know we've got total eclipses over there, and I know the darkness sets upon the land, but you got a lot of things happening here end of summer, right?
Yeah, we had a very, very busy weekend. Lots of retail sales here at Coons Florida, Baltimore. Right now, we're in the middle of our huge Labor Day sales event that goes from now through September the 5th. Most of our vehicles, you get 0% financing for 72 months, plus $1,000 trade assistance. Military and first responders, $1,000 additional cash. In the household, no payments for 90 days. Focus, Fusion, Mustang, Escape, F-150. For the first time in their history, you can get 0% for 72 months plus $1,000 cash back on the F-150, the hottest selling vehicle in America, Nestor. Our deals are unbelievable. We're clearing the decks of 17. So if anybody's looking to save money, right now is the best time to visit us at Coons Florida, Baltimore.
And they could talk some football with you, too, and you could try to cheer them up about Joe Flacco or whatever, right?
Look, we'll talk football. We got McGregor, Mayweather, that spectacle happening this weekend.
Spectacle. I like how you put that.
It is a spectacle. I'm not spending $100 of my hard-earned money to watch it but I may go down to one of our sponsors' restaurants and watch it that way and get some good food with the fight. But lots of buzz about that. It is an event. Of course, we have Ravens-Bills Saturday night. All kind of great stuff going on if you're a sports fan.
Yeah, Andre the Giant and Inoki and Ali were all a spectacle back in the early 70s. As I hear you laughing out loud, I know that you know what I'm talking about. But what do you make of that fiasco? I mean, it's certainly not. It's not my bloodthirst at this point in my life. I find them both to be sort of deplorable, detestable human beings. I've had Mayweather on the show. I have a funny picture of he and I, in Miami 10 years ago, mugging around, and Kevin Frazier came by and gave him a hard time. And, it's like the Kardashians, but with blood, with fists.
Yeah,
right?
It's crazy, but you know what? It sells tickets. And the amazing part, Nestor, is what the public wants. Here's a guy who never stepped ring with boxing gloves, and he's going to go up against one of the greatest the greatest fighter of all time in this division. I don't care how old he is, 40 years old or not. But McGregor didn't have to fight anybody for the right to fight Mayweather. that's the amazing part for me. Just I think about P.T. Barnum when he said there's a sucker born every minute, but this is what the public wants to see. They'll get paid. McGregor will make 100 to 150 million. Mayweather may make 300 to 400 million. That'll certainly help him pay his tax bill to the IRS. But it's a lot of fun to talk about. But certainly, I'm not going to spend $100 to watch this fight. Watch SummerSlam last night, by the way, which was great. 4 hours of wrestling and NXT the night before. I know you're a big wrestling fan. It's still a good product and good sports entertainment for my money.
Well, Dennis, you can enjoy the Orioles for a little while longer. This isn't going well, right? I mean, it really does feel like when they kick off on September 10th, the season will be dead for them, right? I mean, it doesn't. Yeah. The Ravens season will be alive even if Ryan Mallett is under center that day. But I thought that the Orioles were, by buying in with Ellickson, by buying in with Beckham, which has been a great addition for them. I thought that on September 10th they would at least be in the discussion. It's starting to feel more and more like that's not going to happen.
11.5 games back, 60-64, 44 winning percentage, 4-6 the last 10 games. Not heading in the right direction. Not what we wanted. Look, best case scenario to get on the streak and be relevant at this point, but it's really starting, like you said, it feels like it's slipping away very, very fast.
Dennis, appreciate all you do over Coons Florida Security Boulevard. It was good seeing you over a beer and sharing that memory with my mom. And you had a delightful black suit on. It was casual day in Essex for us on Friday. So
I understand. Well, it's a Greek Orthodox thing. When we go to these type of things, that's how we roll.
Well, you know what? My mom was casual. So
great lady, and we're going to miss her.
And by the way, the eclipse passed right over her hometown of Abbeville, South Carolina on Monday. So for that, we are grateful.
There you go.
So there you have it. Final light shining. I love it, man.
It's a great memory. It's well-deserved.
Appreciate you, Dennis. Dennis Colatzos, he is the SSV on WNST, heard here on Thursday from 3 until 5. And, of course, our WNST tech service there for you as well with any breaking news. We hope to break the news that Joe Flacco is going to be playing on September 10th. We'll find out. I am Nestor. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports. WNST, Towson of fake football as we get ready for real football around the corner. This guy was involved in fake football and real football and now reports on all things football at the MMQB as well as out on the web. I have unabashedly said that he is one of my favorite follows out on Twitter at Andrew Brandt. That's BRANDT. Back from his vacation and ready for another season. We welcome him back on to talk all things sports on and off the field. What's going on up there at Villanova? Getting ready for a new group of students up there as the professor, aren't you?
I am indeed, Nestor, and it's like the business of sports, the business of football, the law of football never stops. So it's always a busy time, and even in my roles as an agent, as a team executive, and now analyzing the business of football, the busier time is when the games are not being played. So we're about to hit the slow time, actually. When everyone else gets busy, that's when the business gets slow.
Well, I guess from your perspective and longtime front office executive with Green Bay and other places, the Kaepernick thing creates a situation where you put your green and gold cap back on and you go sit up there in Lambeau Field and say, well, there's only 32 places for him to be. And look, right. I'm a pretty outspoken guy, as you know, and the whole stick to sports thing is the middle finger to anyone in the media who says stuff that people don't like. But, you can stick to sports and you can try to stick to sports, and I know some of your former compadres at ESPN have tried to stick to sports, but, in the NFL would prefer to stick to sports, but you can't, right? Literally in the modern era, this Kaepernick thing has, a year later, really is sort of ingrained itself into this is why we can't stick to sports, right?
Yeah, I think what we have here is a story that won't go away, and the only way it will go away, ironically, is if he's signed. In Baltimore, in Miami, and now in Jacksonville, whenever there's a quarterback issue or injury, his name's going to bubble up, and everybody's going to bang the drum. Why not Kaepernick? Why not Kaepernick? Why not Kaepernick? Until the team goes elsewhere or doesn't do anything like Jacksonville, and we're back to talking about it. when he does sign, and I think he will, I just don't know when, it won't be a story anymore. Listen, I think there are a lot of angles to this, and I just think we as a media, as a society, tend to go in extremes. Do I think Kaepernick's being blackballed? No. Do I think Kaepernick is being judged on a lot more than football? Yes. So somewhere in between that pendulum is what's going on. The obvious point to make is, were he a star player, this wouldn't be an issue. But for backup players, teams do hesitate for reasons beyond football. Do we really think if this statement was made by pick a starting quarterback that he would not be in the NFL? Of course not. Malcolm Jenkins is a safety with the Eagles. He's continuing his protest. Of course he's safe on the roster.
Well, I mean, Tom Brady has sided with Donald Trump, and nobody's asking him about Confederacy statues in the South right now, right?
So what this may turn out is with the Brady case, what you talk about is, well, when players are silent, no one brings it up. But a player like Kaepernick who speaks his voice, it's always brought up. So you would hope this wouldn't silence more players. And you see examples like Michael Bennett where you see that's not happening.
Well, and I think we're going to see more and more of that, especially as the regular season rolls out. And one thing for Goodell, and all of this falls to his lap, and I know he was here. I was one of the guys in front of him, peppering him with questions 2 weeks ago when he came in and did his fireside chat with Bisciotti that really turned out to be poor timing on both of their parts, I think, from a PR standpoint. But the Goodell thing comes out Monday morning that he's made $32 million this year, and fans are all aghast. Defend that for me, Andrew, because, I mean, I know Goodell and worked for him and now in the media, and you've questioned him and all of that. But when the league makes this kind of money, everyone drinks from it. No one questions, how Derek Carr gets a big deal and the players make all the money. But there's a lot of money here for everyone. And one thing Goodell has done while, kissing off St. Louis and kissing off San Diego and maybe, Oakland here down the line is they're making more money every year. They know how to do that really, really well. And Roger has benefited from that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most overrated, over-exaggerated, and frankly wrong narratives in the past few years, going back to Ray Rice, Tom Brady, etc., is that somehow Goodell is in some kind of trouble as commissioner. I'm close to a lot of people around ownership and league, and I've never sensed it. And every time you have an owner like Robert Kraft or Jared Jones that quote-unquote is furious, there are dozens of others saying, good job, Roger. I was in Green Bay, and listen, every team's got a paranoia that Goodell and the league office treat other teams better. And it's just part of being in the league. And they have to answer to all 32. And one thing you can admire about him, he does not play favorites. And if he's sanctioning Jerry Jones's player and Robert Kraft's player, you can't just say, well, he favors certain owners. No, of course not. So the bottom line is this, Nestor. Business is booming. Franchise values are skyrocketing. Team-friendly CBA, another 4 years, extraordinary length, 10 years. And Goodell takes the heat so owners don't have to. I mean, how much heat did Steve Bisciotti get for Ray Rice? How much heat did Roger Goodell get for Ray Rice? You can sort of look at that as a vacuum. That's where this thing goes, and that's why he's so popular with owners.
If you had to write his story right now, you give him a thumbs up, right? If you owned the Packers and you were still there running, he would get your vote to stay. I mean, I don't even know who second place would be. Beyond that, I mean, much like yourself and much like any Dick Cass or anyone that was sort of born into this, there's incredible institutional knowledge about running that place that they couldn't just go pluck some guy from Xerox or Coca-Cola and stick him in there, right?
Yeah, I mean, you'll see people questioning, well, anyone could have overseen this incredible rise of revenues. Maybe, maybe not. And here's the question. That's like saying, well, anyone could roll the ball out and coach, the Kobe and Shaq Lakers or the Cavaliers or the Warriors. But those coaches get paid top dollar, and they're considered the best in the league. Phil Jackson or Steve Kerr. So it's really an argument that the quarterback gets all the credit, the quarterback gets all the blame. Well, this is the time he's getting the credit. He sure does get a lot of blame.
Andrew Brandt is our guest. You can follow him out on Twitter. Tens and hundreds of thousands do at Andrew Brandt. That's BRANDT. Doing his good work up there in Villanova, also with the MMQB, and sharpening his pencil to write about all things NFL here as the fall comes. The CTE thing won't go away, will it, Andrew? I mean, and I don't know when you sat in that chair up in Green Bay all those years. I'm starting to see the guys my age, guys that, and I've been doing this now 23 years, however long the Ravens have been back here. There are a couple of guys from back in the early part of the era that are my age that I've run into them now, and several we've prayed over in Zeus and Chuck Evans and some other players, and what's happened with O.J. Brigance here that we've all witnessed. But I'm starting to hear more than whispers about players of my era, guys in their late 40s, early 50s, who are really, really struggling, and it starts to really affect you when you're in. It's different when they're just a guy on a bubblegum card or a guy in their Stratomatic league or a guy on their fantasy team. When you actually know these individuals, as a guy that sits here and talks about this and makes my living off of it, I really do begin to wonder 25 years from now what football is going to look like, because I don't think this is going to age well.
It's interesting because there's a lot of angles to this. We have a lot of cases of players that are suffering, and I've talked to a lot of them. But unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever you look at it, when I always ask the question, would you do it again, 99% say yes. And in terms of this following that football has, we lament the brain injury, we will lament the violence, but at the end of the day, it seems like we crave it. There are stories about CTE the past few years. There's the movie Concussion. There's the documentary League of Denial, yet it's more popular than ever. So this is a conundrum, a contradiction that we all have about football. We lament the violence, but we crave it.
Andrew, for you with this season and, the Patriots perceived as being 19-0, and we're all going to gather over a silver trophy in Minnesota for them. It's not that easy for them,
right.
But they certainly, they've gone through this offseason. They've improved. When I talk to anyone about the teams, they say, well, the Patriots are the best team. Now let's talk about who's going to be second best. And that's a bizarre thing 15 years into this with a 41-year-old quarterback, right?
Well, it is. I mean, everyone. I admit I've been picking the same two teams for the Super Bowl for the past 5-10 years, which are the Patriots and Packers. I think they have the two best quarterbacks. They have the most sustained success of any of the teams around them. We'll see what happens. The Patriots are blessed, I think, with a weak division, and seem to always be blessed with a weak division. Maybe it's a lot due to them. But that is the case.
Yeah, I thought the Dolphins were coming, but we played them the other night, and I'm like, nah, I don't think so. Jay Cutler, I don't think so.
We'll see what happens. I mean, again, media is quick to write the story before it's written. Obviously it all comes down to January and what happens then.
Hey, really appreciate the visit, as always, with you. We're going to be following you out there at the MMQB with you and Peter and what everybody's doing out. And, we're 2 weeks away from real football. As much as the fans hate fake football, I know it's not real popular inside the organizations either, especially as the infirmary report goes north as it has here in Baltimore week by week.
Yeah. It'll be an interesting season. We'll be in touch.
Hey, I hope so. Andrew Brandt joining us here, the weekly columnist at the MMQB, as well as the host of the Business of Sports podcast and the director of the Morad Center for Sports Law up in Philadelphia at Villanova. We don't hold that against him, though. You can find him out on Twitter at Andrew Brandt, BRANDT. I am Nestor. I am in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear. Our morning newspaper ships to your email inbox each and every morning at 7 a.m. It's all brought to you by our friends at Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Last but never least, breaking news happens first on the WNST Tech Service. We're hoping to get Joe Flacco back out onto the field for September 10th, as well as any Oriole coverage there, all brought to you by Coons Ford. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook, and, of course, throwing the biggest purple party over the River Thames in London. Speaking of Roger Goodell and his international influence, we're going to be over at Wembley on September 23rd for our party on that that Saturday, toss me a note, nasty at WNST.net. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.